While Elden Ring is a breathtaking evolution of From Software's Souls-like style, Bloodborne still stands out as a remarkable and unique experience within the subgenre. It thrives on the mechanics and visual style to give the game a personality separate from the likes of Dark Souls. The game has players become a hunter tasked with eradicating the monstrous beasts ravaging the city of Yharnam and discovering the source of the plague spreading them. Whereas Demon Souls and the Dark Souls trilogy before it opt for a more measured yet gripping combat style, Bloodborne leans unapologetically into ruthlessness. Bloodborne's arsenal of trick weapons, macabre monster and enemy designs, and the adrenaline-fueled pacing of its aggressive combat system give the FromSoft game a special kind of tension. The experience is brilliantly tied together with a setting and mythos that drips with gothic and cosmic horror atmosphere.
As evergreen as something like Skyrim still is, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt makes a strong case for being the most impressive open-world action RPG overall of the 2010s. CD Projekt Red closed their take on Geralt of Rivia's arc from author Andrzej Sapkowski's books in an epic fashion. The grizzled, monster-hunting nomad comes into contact with the threat of the potentially world-ending Wild Hunt as he tries to track down his surrogate daughter, Ciri, the protagonist of the highly anticipated Witcher 4. The Witcher 3 is a triumph of making players feel like they're exploring a deeply lived-in fantasy world. The narratives that unravel from the main and side quests are incredibly engaging, partly thanks to how they make their small and large-scale conflicts and the personalities Geralt meets along the way significant in their own right. Thanks to the current Gen update, The Witcher 3 is an even more visually engaging experience, and quality of life enhancements make things like combat smoother. Seamless use of sign magic and more immersive camera perspectives make the many monsters and humans Geralt will clash with more compelling.
Capcom's Monster Hunter franchise became a consistent cult hit throughout the 2000s and early to mid-2010s. However, World turned it into one of the publisher's tentpole IPs, with the recently released Wilds continuing that success. Monster Hunter World was a technological leap as it was released for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. As players take their customized hunter to the new world to investigate the migration of elder dragons, they encounter many diverse beasts in fast-paced boss fights. Monster Hunter World takes players through segmented zones to encounter these monsters, each with its own biome. These games have always been known for their exhilarating high-octane boss fights in quick succession against a roster's worth of imaginatively designed monsters. The action, looting, and crafting-based gameplay loop is a grind in the best sense, letting players make countless armor or weapon combinations to make their playstyle their own. Monster Hunter World, like many of its predecessors, is an exciting series of action sequences in single-player or multiplayer, but the way its locales feature an interactive ecology is a noticeable step.
Guerrilla Games have been known throughout the 2000s and early 2010s for developing PlayStation's Killzone series. But after working in the first-person shooter space, the studio has branched out into the massive open world of its Horizon franchise. Horizon Zero Dawn quickly became one of the most anticipated PlayStation exclusives of the PS4 generation, introducing protagonist Aloy and her fascinating setting that blends aspects of the past with the future. Horizon Zero Dawn has one of the most inspired and aesthetically vibrant takes on the post-apocalypse concept and subgenre. As players take Aloy through a world mysteriously overrun by animalistic machines, they'll discover a graphically beautiful landscape that combines sci-fi technology with elements of ancient human history. It's a clever method to get players clashing with the wild collection of animal-like robots through a riveting bow and arrow-based combat and light stealth and melee mechanics.
Games like NieR Automata show off the flexibility of a post-apocalypse sandbox for an action RPG. A sequel to 2010's NieR and a spin-off of the wider Drakengard series, this successor opts for a sci-fi approach. The game is set in a world where human-commanded androids and alien-created machines are locked in a proxy war, following the different storylines of Androids 2B, 9S, and Renegade A2. NieR Automata is an inventive action RPG for its mashup of hack-and-slash combat, genre-bending gameplay segments, and non-linear storytelling. The main hack-and-slash system is immensely satisfying and stylish, making combination strikes cathartic to pull off. The game's open world is also well-designed and rewarding to explore. Automata's world provides intriguing backdrop for its cryptic, slowly unraveling story. It invites multiple playthroughs through the eyes of its main cast, delving into somber themes of existentialism and humanity's inclinations toward violence.
The first Xenoblade Chronicles is another head action RPG from the early 2010s, and a successor to classic PlayStation JRPGs. Monolith Soft is seen as a spiritual successor to Xenogears and Xenosaga, and has since become a JRPG and border action RPG staple for Nintendo. The plot is set in a sci-fi world where two warring peoples living on the frozen bodies of titans, Bionis and Mechonis, are locked in generational conflict. Shulk discovers he's capable of wielding a sword that could be key to winning the war for Bionis, taking off on an eventual quest alongside his growing party. Xenoblade Chronicles is one of the most acclaimed action JRPGs of the 2010s, earning its exception from a synergistic combat system and a grand-scale story that doesn't lose sight of his cast's personal arcs. Players control Shulk in real-time combat and trigger special battle arts abilities, while the AI capably manages the wider party. The combat gameplay loop is complemented by systems like chain attacks, letting player get more involved with party members during the action. Players could enjoy two of the best 2010s action RPGs in quick succession. Shortly after Dark Souls was released, Bethesda launched the iconic Elder Scrolls V Skyrim to widespread critical acclaim. The game had players create their dragonborn protagonist to navigate the lands of Skyrim on their quests to defeat the dragon, Alduin. But while the main questline is a simple but effective example of epic fantasy, it's the optional content where this game truly shines. Skyrim's open world was a milestone in gaming for the time. It played out like a high fantasy themed sandbox that allowed players to organically stumble upon dungeons, characters, quests, and other points of interest. Its freeform progression system also encouraged Skyrim players to experiment with many combat builds, with even the zaniest setups able to carry them through a playthrough with creative thinking. Of course, the game's immense modding community also helped retain relevance. An astonishing catalog of mods gave players, and still do, countless ways to add new combat systems, characters, and even entire quest lines to shake up their next playthrough.
The classic BioWare days spawned several timeless RPGs spanning fantasy and sci-fi. The studio's Mass Effect series is still seen as some of the best sci-fi in the RPG genre, action or otherwise, with Mass Effect 2 being the trilogy's highlight. Commander Shepard returns to put together a spacefaring crew willing to embark on a collision course with a faction of insectoid invaders dubbed the Collectors. The game opened the 2010s with a bang for the RPG genre, receiving rapturous praise for its operatic sci-fi story, character roster, and refined third-person action. A healthy mix of sci-fi powers and a wealth of weapons keeps Mass Effect 2's cover shooter combat entertaining and gives players room to tailor their Commander Shepard as they see fit. And as with many of BioWare's classic games, Mass Effect 2's lovable supporting cast and distinct personalities helped elevate the main quest and side quests to such dramatic heights. Not many games can emotionally invest players so profoundly in the fate of their role-playing choices and story outcomes like Mass Effect 2 can.
Fallout 3 was Bethesda's first take on the post-apocalyptic action RPG, reimagining it into a sandbox-style experience akin to The Elder Scrolls. It earned critical acclaim in 2007, but Obsidian Entertainment's Fallout New Vegas built on its foundations tastefully. This spin-off installment for the series puts players in the role of a courier protagonist who survives an assassination attempt and tracks down their would-be killer.
Fallout New Vegas isn't without its issues, as glitches held the game back at launch, but time and community support via mods have made the game age quite well. Players can expect the now classic first-person shooting mechanics that Fallout 3 introduced to slow time and strategically target the enemy's weaknesses. It's a case of more of the same being an asset in this respect, but New Vegas establishes its identity with its particular setting and storytelling. The role-playing options to shape quest lines and the world building involved with the land's various rivaling factions allow New Vegas to stand apart from the rest of this beloved series.
Dark Souls certainly didn't invent the Souls-like subgenre, as the team's Demon's Souls launched 2 years earlier. However, the former certainly popularized the concept in mainstream gaming spaces, refining the experience of its spiritual predecessor. The game is set in a gloomy, dark fantasy world where humanity is cursed in a state of undeath due to Lord Gwyn's desperate efforts to prolong the gods' Age of Fire. Like From Software's subsequent games, Dark Souls is famous for its brutal action and difficult gameplay loop. The game encourages methodical combat to overcome daunting obstacles, while letting players experiment with different class builds. This action RPG also retains its predecessor's subtle yet fascinating storytelling approach. Dark Souls' world invites speculation and exploration, weaving environmental storytelling elements into the narrative to reveal the lore of the world. The rest of its trilogy garnered high praise, but the original Dark Souls, Metroidvania-like level progression gives it a unique flavor. The way its locales are carefully interconnected holds up incredibly well today.